Now, discussions between the European Union and the UK went on into last night and will continue over the weekend with 4 weeks to go until the January the 1st transition close. Significant divergences remain between the two sides, according to the latest press report. According to a member of Michel Barnier's team, significant gaps remained, and the final outcome was still very much uncertain, according to that particular statement. On the British side, a government source said the prospect of a breakthrough in the next few days was receding. Depending on which headline you read this morning in the press, it's a number of different issues potentially that we could well be up against. But nonetheless, it's not suggesting that we are not potentially in an area where we could get some sort of a deal. Let's get an update now in terms of a risk event for next week. We're off now to Daily FX, and joining us is Justin McQueen. Justin, clearly this is front and centre in terms of the FX markets at the moment. What are you viewing?
Good morning, Jeremy. And I think, of course, the main event will be the continued negotiations between the EU and the UK, and that will be pretty much one of the largest dictators of the moves that we will see in G10 FX across next week. And of course, we do have the EU summit coming up. So we're expecting to see further progress. And despite what some of the headlines may have come out over the past 24 hours or so, we could see a breakthrough as we head towards the EU summit in order to start getting a potential deal ratified and looked at by the rest of the European heads. And I think in terms of a trade to look out for would be sterling Swiss. Now, the reason why sterling Swiss and perhaps maybe not so much sterling against the US dollar, I think with cable has been still trading at pretty much elevated levels. We did hit a 135 handle yesterday, but we have come back 50 pips or so. But I think sterling Swiss offers you some good exposure to the pound on the back of a potential deal in the works. Now, the reason being is because also at the same time as well with the Swiss franc has strengthened quite significantly over the past couple of months. If you take a look at, say, dollar Swiss currently hovering around 5-year lows. And also at the same time, we have to remember that the S&B doesn't exactly like a strong Swiss franc. And at the same time, when there's vaccine optimism that's continued to support equity markets in this sort of global cyclical upswing that we're starting to look at towards into 2021. And I think further appreciation in the Swiss franc may actually be hard to come by. And so on the back of a potential Brexit deal, sterling Swiss could be a good avenue to look at. And particularly as well, we've seen institutional CFTC positioning showing that Swiss franc net longs are pretty much somewhat extreme, somewhat stretched. And so therefore, if we start to see this sort of continued optimism over a potential global recovery, then we should expect to see a bit of an unwind in terms of some net longs for the Swiss franc and therefore benefiting sterling Swiss. But in terms of levels to look out for, I think really the bias would be to continue buying on dips towards this sort of 118.50 to 60 trend line that we do see. And we'll be looking out for going above the 50% Fibonacci retracement at 122.17 and potentially as high as around about 124. And then we'd also have our stop below this trend line, so roughly around about sort of the 118 handle. So again, sterling Swiss would be a pretty good avenue for getting exposure on the back of a trade deal between the EU and the UK. But one thing I would say in terms of looking at the pound and trading the pound or any sort of cross, I would say to stay nimble. There's going to still be a lot of back and forth between the UK and the EU source reports from UK and Brussels reporters. So it's definitely one to just keep your eyes out for in terms of the latest Brexit headlines that will start to come out again.
Yeah, wise words. Justin, thanks very much indeed. Stay nimble. That's the message from Daily FX this morning. Justin McQueen taking a look at a trade around the potential conclusion of the Brexit deal. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGTV and subscribe to our YouTube channel.